Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome into another FSE video. Fantasy Stock Exchange back with you guys for quarterbacks 13 through 24 in our redraft rankings. Before I ask how you guys is doing and how we're hanging in there today, we're going to hit the intro.
What am I? What draws my admiration? What is that which gives me joy?
Dave.
Quarterback rankings?
Alrighty, so if you watched, I guess it'd be Wednesday's video, we had QBs 1 through 12. This will be 13 through 24, a little bit concise or shorter, if you will. Use the link down below. You can get all 24 or 30 some, however much we rank out to rankings. That'll get you just your email in there. With that, you will save money on the draft guide or the in-season package. We'll run ads, etc., stuff like that. So make sure to get in that just down below the first link. So sign up for that. You'll get all the rankings. And we'll start it off right away. So our consensus using the same average is Daniel Jones at our QB 13. So Daniel Jones is our QB 13, and we are very spread out on him. So I have him at 17, Bush has him at 8, Tyler 10, and Danny 14. So I'll let you go first, Bush, and I'll just give my reasoning as to why I have him at 17.
Yeah, so for us educated individuals who have him at 8,
I can't read.
Daniel Jones, to me, it's pretty much the same rationale I had for Kyler Murray. When you see that kind of production, those kind of boom games that Daniel Jones had, he had 5 games where he had like 22, 25-plus fantasy points. He also was one of only 2 quarterbacks that had more than one 30-plus fantasy point game last year, and Lamar Jackson was the other one. So, I mean, those ceiling games are what you look for out of your quarterback, especially when you're streaming, which is like the kind of territory of quarterbacks we're in right now. And when you look at what they added in the offseason, they added additions. They had additions to the O-line. They added what in my opinion, is the safest tackle in the draft, and Andrew Thomas, who should definitely solidify, I don't know, whatever tackle spot that they're going to want him to play. And then they also drafted a guy in the 3rd round that should be a developmental guy, maybe to eventually take over for Nate Solder. And then the weapons core was banged up last year. And I mean, Evan Ingram is probably going to be banged up his whole career. So who knows with that? But like when you look at the weapons that he has to deal with, Darius Slayton was coming into his own. He's going to be a stud next year. Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in the league. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, these guys are run after catch guys that'll help pad Daniel Jones's stats quite a bit. And I mean, honestly, if he can clean up like the fumbles and stuff, like he has a baseline rushing floor. And to me, there's not too much of a difference between him and Josh Allen. I think actually Daniel Jones's surrounding cast is better than Josh Allen's.
Yeah. I mean, didn't play 4 games last year. Finishes the quarterback 24. Obviously, what we're seeing with him is those huge games and then those very, very kind of poor games that we're not really – we feel that it's an inconsistent start. And I think that's why Lucas and Danny are kind of a little bit lower than him on Daniel Jones, is that inconsistency. And that's fine. But, I mean, we see that same inconsistency with other quarterbacks that we've ranked above him, and I'm just bought into the rushing attack. I think we talk about it with Lamar, we talk about it with Kyler, we talk about it with Josh Allen, Watson, Russell Wilson. I mean, these are guys. There's a reason they're so high up. It's because that rushing baseline is very important. And yes, he's going to clean up the fumbles. Is that guaranteed? No, but again, you going into another year in the NFL is going to help you improve it, at least in the slightest bit. And I think him as a passer is just going to improve too. The line is going to protect him. He's not going to be put on his ass all the time. And I think that's important for him to actually do something and do some damage in the NFL. I'm very high on Daniel Jones as a quarterback for fantasy purposes, especially this year.
Sorry, I was going to mention I have him currently at second lowest at 14. And that's mostly due to the fact that I know the system that they're bringing in is the Jason Garrett system. I've seen that the past 10 years from the Cowboys. We're going to see a whole lot of Saquon Barkley. We're going to see a whole lot of Evan Ingram. But aside from that, I mean, the volume's just simply not going to be there, in my opinion. Again, I'm not low on him by any means. I mean, 14, there's only one person we haven't mentioned that I have currently one spot ahead of him. We'll actually get to that in our next player that we bring up. But, again, 14 doesn't necessarily mean I'm low on him. He's good. he's a B. I don't want to say a B-Tech Josh Allen, but that's kind of how I view him in the sense that you can get a little bit of a rushing upside, obviously, with the athleticism. But I don't think the passing volume is necessarily going to be there to what we expect from him in terms of a second-year leap, simply because I don't think the system will allow him to. I mean, although we hated I don't want necessarily say we want to hate it, but what Shermer did for them, he still threw the ball at he called plays, like passing plays, at a crazy split last year compared to what Jason Garrett's ultimately going to bring to the table, in my opinion. So, again, I'm not low on him by any means. I just kind of have literally only one person I haven't mentioned that is ahead of him right now.
The situation to me is pretty similar, though. Like, I'm not saying Daniel Jones is as good as Dak Prescott. I don't think he is, but the Giants' defense is bad. Like, it's not good. Like, they're going to have to throw whether they like it or not. Saquon Barkley is like an elite receiver. So we saw Jason Garrett use Zeke Elliott much more in the passing game than – I think that many people expected Zeke Elliott to be used in the passing game in 2018 when he was
70-plus catches. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see like that first 3 years of Dak where he was kind of ranked, or the middle 2 years of Dak where he was kind of ranked between the 10 and 12 range. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that from Daniel Jones. Again,
but you have him at 14. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, 10 to 12 range. That's
yeah, and like we're ultimately splitting hairs pretty much from 10 to 25. Like there's so much depth at the quarterback position, which is, I mean, we haven't really stated this yet. Don't draft him early. This is why. Is because you can really make the case from anyone from like 8 to 20 that they have top 5 upside. Like it's really that deep at this position. So, Lucas, we'll let you give your thoughts on Daniel Jones since you haven't gone yet.
Yeah. So, like Tyler said, he was very boomer bust. He had 30 or more fantasy points in 4 games. I don't know what the percentage of his total points are, but those games were Washington, Detroit, the Jets, and Washington. So all against the abysmal.
Okay, so my counterpoint to that is, would you have sat him in those games? Because he's a streaming quarterback. He's in streaming territory.
No, but here's
so when to play him is a benefit. And I think as he was a rookie too, he's a rookie quarterback from Duke University. Like if he's able to, and even if he doesn't improve in this area, he's still going to be a high-end streamer. But I think because he was a rookie and because of the additions that they made, he's only going to get more consistent. Maybe he's not the most consistent quarterback of all time, but where you're getting him, like, I mean, he's going off the board probably around the quarterback 15 range. So you can pair him with another quarterback and stream the matchups.
Yeah, but your rankings aren't based on streaming value and where you would. So he comes in.
I'm high on the talent. I think he's gonna take a step forward and become a more consistent guy. I think the inconsistency was as a result of him being a rookie.
He's still playing bad defense.
So he put up, I would guarantee, more than 70% in those 4 games, and they have the second hardest strength of schedule based on 2020 win totals, with only 4 of those games being with teams less than 7 wins.
Okay, it's based on win totals, but not defensive DVOA.
But then I have more. Like you got to let me get the full breakdown. So then he's 29th in strength of schedule against opposing defensive efficiency, 23rd in pass defensive efficiency, and 26th in rush defense efficiency. So if they can't get Saquon going in their first 4 games against Steelers, Bears, Niners, and Rams, they're going to have to chuck the ball on Steelers, Bears, Niners, Rams. Obviously, the Rams defense is subpar. The Bears is okay.
The Bears took a step back too.
But adding Joe Judge switches up the whole offense. Now they're going to say they're going to run Jason Garrett, so there's going to be some controversy there.
I don't really think that's like the end all. I don't like Dak finished 6, 10, 11.
I'm saying because you make rankings based on fantasy finish and where you think they are ranking compared to the others. If he only puts up 70% of his points against bad defenses and they have the second hardest strength of schedule, he won't finish as QB 8 or 10 because the games will be bad.
He will if he's putting up 35 points against those teams like he was last year.
In 4 of those games, and he was QB 24. And he only sat out 4 games, so maybe he's QB 15. So you're saying if that happens,
the reason I have him so high, like I said, he's in streaming territory. Like where he's being drafted is streamer territory. The reason I have him that high is because you know when to stream him. He's a guy who performs in.
But that's not a QB 8 though. Like that's completely counteracting the.
I think he's more than just.
The way I'm talking about him is like as a high end streamer. I think that's his floor. Like I think the rushing, along with the development he's going to take as a player. I know the new system might stunt his development a little bit, but I think he's going to take a leap forward. He came from Duke University. We're talking about here.
He's literally this year's Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's exactly. I see the exact same patterns with Josh Allen, and his weapons core is going to do him so many favors. All of his weapons that he has are either like deep threats or run after the catch guys. They're all going to give him some. I remember 2 years ago, Jared Goff had the most like fraudulent stat line of all time because all of his like plays were like run after catch plays. I could totally see us talking next year about Daniel Jones's like touchdown percentage having to like it has to regress or something because he had just like a uber efficient season because he has all these run after catch guys.
I just wanted to mention, like, this isn't my hate towards Daniel Jones or dislike towards Daniel Jones. I mean, I have him at 14. I still think he's a fine option. I just didn't see any way where if we're projecting a full 16 games where he finishes ahead of guys like Matt Stafford, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, I just don't think he passes them this year. So ultimately here, I'm kind of like the middle between you and Lucas. But I just don't think his ceiling can really match those guys, in my opinion.
The separating factor with those guys is injury. Stafford and Wentz would be above him for me if it wasn't for the injuries.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to stream Daniel Jones. I'm going to have him on the teams because he's a good fantasy player. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about rankings. He will not be QB8 unless he overcomes that bad. Like he plays good against bad defenses, which he showed nothing of that last year. And adding Andrew Thomas does not fix that because the rest of their O-line is terrible outside of Andrew Thomas and Kevin Zeitler. But I get like what you're saying in terms of streaming, but like it's a rankings episode, not.
No, I agree. I'm more so betting on him taking a step forward in that department because I think he's as safe as he gets. Like the streaming part, like I said, it's just that's his baseline, not like what I expect from him. I expect more from him, but I think his baseline is always you can fall back on. He's a high end streamer.
And to the line thing, just real quick before we bounce to the next guy, is he had nothing last year, and now he has something, and it's like, let's see those guys.
Yeah, we said that about the Jets though last year too. Adding something always helps, but the line's still not good. They just say he plays left tackle, then they'll just blitz on the right side with Nate Solder, and nothing's fixed. Like
so what? 35-point games just like disappear because now
they do when you play good defenses, which was shown last year. Like it took the 4 worst defenses.
Yeah.
That were
find me a rookie quarterback that just tore up the NFL in every single game.
Well, I hope he can beat the Lions without Matt Stafford. I hope he can beat the Redskins.
And it's not like those games disappear. You get the Redskins twice a year. You get the Eagles who have a bad
plus injuries happen to defensive players and all that
the
shit.
Secondary
still good. The Eagles defense is still good too. So
they got a really good.
I don't think the Eagles defense is good at all. I think they have Darius Slay, and you just don't throw at him.
They have a really good front seven.
One of the best front.
One of the best front sevens in the league.
Name a good linebacker on their team.
When they sack him 20 times because their O-line is terrible. Like it all.
It's not terrible though. They have Will Hernandez, who's one of the best young guards in the league. Kevin Zeitler is as consistent as they come. Andrew Thomas, like I said, it's a bit of a projection, but I think he's the safest of all the tackles.
Yeah, I agree.
But another piece.
Maybe Solder bounces back. Joe Judge came from the Patriots system, and maybe he picked up a thing or two from Dante Scarnecchia. And Nate Solder was with him there, so it might be more of a familiarity perspective.
Again, my main concern, obviously, like the talent's there. He's got the weapons. Again, it's just the overall passing volume of the offense. I mean, Joe Judge, Jason Garrett have repeatedly said, we want to really play a smash mouth type brand of football.
When your defense is as bad as the Giants, you're not going to have a choice.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
All right, next up, Baker Mayfield, that'd be our 14th quarterback, and we kind of have them split again. So Tyler's the lowest at 18, Corey's the highest at 11, and then we're mixing in the middle. So Tyler, why do you have him at 18 lower than guys like Rodgers, Goff, Drew Lock, guys like that?
Yeah, it's all Kevin Stefanski, and it's a little guy named Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb that's going to be the core part of that offense. Where I don't know if I can get behind Baker as a passer because I just genuinely believe this offense is going to run through running the ball with Hunt and with Nick Chubb. That's just kind of my main kind of argument for why I don't really see Baker as being an efficient guy. Kirk Cousins finished as quarterback 15 with Stefanski last year, and that's Kirk Cousins, who I think is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. So let's see it. He doesn't have really a mobile upside. He's sitting here at 18 for me. It may be a touch low, but it's a team that's just going to run the ball. When they ran the ball last year, that was when they were winning. And it doesn't take someone to just step into that offense to see that that's actually the way they're going to win games. And if they want to win games, then let's run the ball. And if they don't, and they want to finish another 6-10 season, then yeah, maybe Baker will finish as a quarterback 14 like you guys have him.
I just wanted to touch upon, you said Kirk Cousins finished as quarterback 15 last year. Yeah. Well, Baker's basically inheriting that system, except he has plenty more weapons to work with. And in general, like you said, Kirk Cousins.
It's not about weapons, it's about opportunity.
Well, I mean,
even weapons.
Weapons lead to high efficiency, though. When you have good
good
receivers, good tight ends, and all that running backs that can catch the ball, like I said with Daniel Jones, it leads to us saying next year Baker's touchdown percentage has to go down. It's when you have receivers and quarterbacks that aren't the elite guys, that aren't Watson, that aren't Wilson, that aren't Mahomes, they're only as good as the weapons around them. And can you honestly tell me that Baker Mayfield's supporting cast is not top 3 in the league?
We said that last year, though, too.
No, I did not. I said his offensive line is going to get him killed.
Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wilson.
You can't be an efficient, good offense without a good offensive line. You just can't.
They just brought in 2 tackles that are run tackles. Like, yeah, let's go.
That'll.
They're still better pass blocking tackles than what they had last year, though.
Yeah, they are. And
I mean, God, I could have gone out there and been better tackle than fucking what they had last year.
Exactly, which means, like I said, it's like you're going to see with a lot of my rankings. I like to bet on the upside. I especially with quarterbacks where it's a replaceable position. If Mayfield busts, I can pick someone off the waiver wire, and it's not really, it's like kind of no harm, no foul. I'm willing to bet on the upside because I think the weapons and I think the talent's there. You obviously don't, but I think the talent and the weapon is there to Baker to have a completely just bonkers season from an efficiency perspective. And I know you don't want to bet on efficiency, but it's going to happen. There's going to be 2 or 3 quarterbacks next year that were way more efficient than we anticipated.
Kirk Cousins finishes 15, and Cousins is a better quarterback.
Cousins is not a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. He's a great quarterback. He's a safe quarterback. Baker Mayfield's upside is far higher.
I'd much rather have a safe quarterback than a guy that's going to throw 20 picks in a season. I'm good.
Yes, and why? It's very possible that Baker Mayfield's a complete bust in fantasy this year, and I'll take all the heat I can get for that. But I'm going to bet on it. It's something I'm going to do. I'm going to fall on the sword if he sucks.
I mentioned when we were talking about Daniel Jones how I have him at 14, and there was one other quarterback I had above him. It was Baker. I just look at it from, obviously, like you mentioned, the volume may not be there, but again, it wasn't there last year as well. When you take into account, like, there's not a huge change. Obviously, Stefanski's going to bring in an all-around offense. I get that. But it wasn't like they were top 5 in the NFL in terms of pass-run split last year. So you can't really project a huge difference there in overall volume. And when you're getting guys like Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, you added Austin Hooper in the offseason. You added an overall better coach. Like, don't get me started on Freddie Kitchen, but he was just fucking awful last year. You added Stefanski, who can actually have an efficient offense. Not to mention adding 2 bookend tackles that are much improved over what the team had last year. I do believe that Baker Mayfield is going to be a huge bounce back. Not to mention, I mean, you just look at the team last year as a whole, whether it was hype in the offseason, whether it was inconsistencies to start the year, everybody underperformed on that team. Typically, I like to bet on good, talented players bouncing back. Like, we can't expect a guy like Odell Beckham, who has shown throughout his career, like, when he's on his game, he's a top 5 talent. So players like that, where to the point is, you can't just expect him to stay in a rut throughout the rest of their career.
This is Baker's element too, man. He's a walk-on. This is just like he's got the chip on his shoulder right now. This is exactly when you want Baker. It's like when Nick Foles is a backup quarterback.
He can keep that chip on his shoulder as this is his 3rd coach in 3 NFL years. Maybe next year. Yes, he finally actually shows that he can be a half decent quarterback.
I mean, he has the rookie touchdown passing record, like over Peyton Manning.
Why does that matter? He was a rookie 2 years ago.
Okay, but like think of all the good rookie seasons we've seen. No one has broken that record that he has. So he's not a bad quarterback. People thought he was a top 8 quarterback asset in the league going into this past year. So he's still a talented quarterback. He had a bad season. He's going to keep his mouth shut and just play football this year. No commercials.
How do you know?
Because that's how professional athletes think. Really? That's how professional athletes think. They don't just like fucking curl up and give up. They get motivated. They work harder.
We're only 2 in and we're like 20 minutes. What it comes down to is
those were the biggest debates though.
They're going to run the ball. So we're banking on a TD rate like Ryan Tannehill. Or he's going to be Kirk Cousins' level of fantasy production because it's not going to exceed that unless there's a high TD rate. It's just how it is. Like, they're going to run the ball. You can take any rushing quarterback. High TD rates will produce in fantasy, obviously. But if he doesn't and has about an average, he'll just be right around a QB 13, 14. So where he's respectively probably going, it's probably still a safe pick.
Yeah. If he was quarterback 5, I wouldn't be in on him because, like, then you have to draft him, like, highly. And also, if he was a running back, I wouldn't be, like, betting on him because – it's harder to replace that position. He plays a replaceable position, so I'm willing to take the L if he's a huge bust.
So basically, when you're drafting him, just make sure that like one of the worst teams in the red zone last year somehow snaps their fingers and fixes that because that's what you're going to need. You're going to need a 7 to 8 TD rate in order for him to be.
They were 16 in red zone percentage last year. They weren't terrible. That's bottom half of the league, but it's right there at the middle.
And Kevin Stefanski started this year once he was like in the headlines that he's going to use analytics because he's that type of guy. So we're going to move on now to Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers are tied. To me, they're just right here because no matter how bad you can make up a narrative that their situation sucks, they finish here every single year. They're going to finish here this year. Jared Goff's offense stayed the same, and Aaron Rodgers just added a receiver. So really didn't get worse by any means in terms of a one-year stint. So I think it's going to be kind of that high 2 with the upside of the 1 that we see some weeks, but they're not really that appealing to me in general.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, I'm pretty high on relatively. I just kind of believe in him, and not really believe in him, more or less believe in the fact that they're going to pass the ball a lot. And they kind of built weapons to continue doing that because they don't care about defense and offensive line and running efficiently. So they're just going to pass it a shit ton, and that's kind of what I'm counting on with the 14th spot that I have him at.
Yeah, no, I currently have him the lowest here. I'm at 18, but again, all these guys are a mix and match. You pick and choose. I just think that overall the Rams are going to be a declining team from what we've seen in the past. They're going to use a lot more 12 personnel with those tight ends that they have, obviously. They have 3 extremely talented tight ends in Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett, and they recently drafted Bryson Hall.
That means we're just going to use 3 tight ends.
Well, I mean, they did show it over the stretch. The last 8 games last year, they were one of the highest usages in terms of 12 personnel. I don't think that changes, especially when you use one of your best receivers in Brandon Cooks in the offseason.
Yeah, but you also lost your running back. They're counting on a rookie to put up that same.
So I mean, again, they've stated before that they're confident with the 3-back system that they have, obviously with Henderson, Akers, and Brown. Whether that comes to fruition or not, they're still ultimately going to use those guys. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to fall off a cliff. Obviously, they're one of the pass-heaviest teams in the league. I just think if you're banking on Jared Goff ultimately producing top 15, replicating his 626 attempts from last season, that's ultimately a fool's game to go off of, simply because there's going to be a regression in that regard, in my opinion, simply because look at other teams around the league. I do think that the Rams aren't ultimately going to be the highest in overall attempts. So,
did their defense get better?
Well, I mean, you look at it, other teams around the league also got worse. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons, for one, I do think.
Yeah, but there's actually.
They're still. I would bet like thousands of dollars that they're still top 5 in pass attempts. Maybe it's a little bit less than what they had last year, but to me, Jared Goff is strictly like a volume quarterback. He's going to be like probably top 15 lock just from a volume perspective. So that's why I have him ranked there.
But when you're relying on such volume without efficiency to carry your numbers, if that overall volume takes any dip.
Well, we don't know the efficiency yet. I'm just like more like this is kind of polar opposite to the last 2 guys we talked about. But like with Goff, he's the type of guy I would pair Mayfield with, is because I can use Goff because Goff, whether he's efficient or not, we don't know yet. But he's going to be he's going to probably be safer just from a pass attempts perspective.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're splitting hairs. We hear like 14, 18. Like all these guys are kind of in the same tier.
I mean, 4 quarterback differences.
Well, I mean, they're all the same tier, though. They're all streamers at the end of the day. They're not guys that you're going to be comfortable with starting every week. It's just when I'm looking at Goff, like you have to rely on such volume without efficiency to carry the numbers. I just
worked, though. 12, 7, and then 13 last year.
Well, I get that, but relying on such high volume ultimately is how you rely on someone who just doesn't have the upside. I'd much prefer a guy like, for example, I have Ben Roethlisberger, who's going to have the ball. If you get 16 games out of Ben Roethlisberger, I could bet you right now he'll finish above Jared Goff.
He won't.
I'll take that bet every day of the week.
I'll bet you it then.
Top 10 if he plays 16 games. Like he has.
What? Like they're going to produce similar volumes, except Ben Roethlisberger is the better quarterback with better weapons.
Are they going to produce similar volumes? The Steelers have one of the best 3 defenses in the league.
If Roethlisberger plays 16 games, yeah, they will.
Why?
We've seen a large sample size of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, but they have not had good defenses up until last year, though.
The Steelers
and they've had elite passing offense.
Go back to 2006. I mean, sure.
Sure, take it since 2010 then, we'll just say. Take it since 2013 then, we'll say. I mean, he's ultimately buoyed 2 top elite receivers in the league for the past.
Okay, but now he doesn't have that, and he doesn't have an elite back either.
I mean, James Conner was very fantasy relevant.
Do you hate
2 years ago?
Don't defend him for a tape.
When Ben Roethlisberger was healthy 2 years ago, James Conner wasn't a top 5 running back?
Was he? They had Bell. What, 2 years ago?
The year Bell sat out, even when they lost Bell. James Conner was phenomenal that year.
Well, that's the line. The line has now gone
Okay.
down.
Either way, we got to rip through a lot more of these.
We'll get to that.
Let's get to Aaron Rodgers real quick. I think we got, unless Lucas, you want to add something about Goff real quick.
No, that's the same thing for Rodgers. They're just going to finish there just because it's what it is. You can't like argue that they're going to finish lower unless they miss a bunch of games. So they're both, like I said, high twos with the chance to be a top 5 in a week. So next up is Drew Lock. Trying to look at this overall rankings for him. So Tyler and Corey are the highest at 15, 16, and me and Danny have him at 21. So I'll give my spot. The only reason I have him here is because – actually, there's a couple reasons. The hit rates, there's never been a quarterback drafted in drafted in round 2 in year 2 to finish as a top 24 quarterback. Like that does mean something. Like it was a hit rate, but it does prove something. They're going to come in projected to pass the ball a lot, but then I've sort of been reading and listening and stuff, and they're going to try and run the ball now too. But they brought Melvin Gordon to switch into a zone scheme. So to me, it's like, yes, the weapons are there. Yes, we see the upside, but he really actually wasn't that great in the 4 games he played last year. So to me, I think he's just going to be a low 2, maybe spike 1 or 2 weeks. But overall, in the long term of a year, this team is still going to ride their defense. They're still going to try and just manage on offense, bringing in their rookies. So I think he's still not there yet. But that being said, next year I think he'll be kind of around maybe you could say the Daniel Jones for you or like the Matt Stafford range because the offense will be in year 2 with the new scheme.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just want to mention with Drew Lock again. I like him like from a ceiling perspective. I get like you're getting a top 10 potential guy if everything works out with the weapons that they have. I just ultimately think that, as Lucas said, they may be a more run type team simply because they have an elite defense. They're going to be a good team in my estimation this year. There's really not going to be a true dependency on him absolutely carrying the offense. In general, there's a lot of I don't want to say question marks because they're all talented pieces, but we don't know exactly like receiver. We don't know how Melvin Gordon's going to adjust the system. We don't know how Drew Lock's going to look with a larger sample size. So ultimately, those question marks kind of impact my ranking for him. But if we're talking just upside, I do believe he does have that top 10 type upside.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so 29th in red zone percentage last year, 32nd in passing attempts. I mean, it's just not there. The offense just wasn't good when it came to receiving. He did step in and they started winning, and I think they kind of rehauled their entire offense in the draft. They went ahead and grabbed 3 receivers, even picking up an undrafted free agent. No, 7th round, I think, Tyree Cleveland from Florida. To go along with Jerry Jeudy and Speedy KJ Hamler. So what was that?
And then they already had Courtland Sutton.
Yeah. So they already had Sutton too, and Deshaun Hamilton, who will compete with Hamler, in my personal opinion. You're gonna see an overhaul in their offense, kind of a shift in how they want to function. They did add Melvin Gordon. I think he will provide some really solid receiving work as well as efficiency in running. I think the overall offense is just going to go up kind of through the roof. I think the team's ready to at least show they can compete this year and get ready for the run next year. I do believe Drew Lock will be remarkably better next year, but I still think he has a good amount of value. Why I want to find him at 15 on my rankings for this year.
Yeah, I pretty much similar rationale to me. I think it's just it's hard to decipher between these ceiling and floor guys because I have Goff ahead of him, who's more of a floor type quarterback, and then Drew Lock at 16, I believe. Drew Lock is something like I guess I'm just willing to miss on him. If I miss, I miss, and then I'll pick up another quarterback to pair with him, or I'll stream the position. Or it's kind of just I don't have to draft him at 16. I could probably get him later than that. It's just more so I'm willing to bet on the flash that I saw from him last year, coupled with the weapons that he has around him.
Yeah. So bouncing off, Big Ben. We kind of got into a quick rant about him. Anyone want to take a quick take before me and Danny kill each other?
Yeah, so we it's hard to like set in stone like you're taking in injuries or you're not taking in injuries. But for Big Ben, I think it's a little different because if you're not ranking Big Ben, if you're ranking Big Ben due to injury, then like what are you ranking? If that kind of makes sense. Like, are you ranking that he plays 8 games and then like why is it Mason Rudolph in your rankings? Like, so you have to kind of take into account. So really, as of now, most of the time I just take into account like no one's hurt. Everyone's playing 16 games. What would happen? Big Ben, when he plays, is a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I have him at 15 because there's so much good options this year, but he is an elite fantasy option. They throw the ball. I mean, we saw 2 years ago with Antonio Brown and Juju, not that they have Antonio Brown, but they have Juju in the slot, they said. Eric Ebron is better than when they had Vance McDonald that year, or they had someone else too. I can't remember. Now they have Deontay Johnson, James Washington, now Chase Claypool. Their O-line is still good. It's still a top 15 offensive line in the league. Not as good as they used to be. But if Big Ben is playing, he will be calling the plays. Like, he's not going to come back from his worst injury of his career and be like, yeah, you can tell me what to do. It'll be his offense. They're going to run the ball, but they're going to be throwing the ball because they're going to be efficient on offense, so the drives are going to be longer. So he will be at the top. To me, going hand in hand, I have Juju super high too, because if he is moving back to the slot, we have to take into account his past slot production with Antonio Brown, probably one of the best receivers to play in the last 20 years, on the other side of the field. And he was a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. So all that's going to come hand in hand with why I think he's 15. But like 15 to me seems way too low if he's playing 16 games. I just can't move him up. As of now, I can't move him higher than like Baker and Jared Goff, etc.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to add to that too. Keep in mind, like, I'm not by any means saying that Deontay Johnson is Antonio Brown, but the role that he's going to play in the offense is going to play similarly. I mean, you're going to have him on the outside.
But no one's like Antonio Brown cannot take a snap where he's not being at least bracketed. Like, if not, like, not to mention the best corner's always on Antonio Brown and all that stuff. It's more so the attention factor. It makes the quarterback's job easier. It makes Juju Smith-Schuster's job easier. It makes, like, I'm going to move Big Ben up after this. I'm admittedly a little too low on him. I think I would definitely take him over a couple of the guys that I have ahead of him currently. But to me, like, the upside to me is just, like, he didn't look good the last time he played. He threw for 5,000 yards or whatever it was the last full season he played, but he threw a lot of bad picks that cost his team games.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the thing
like, he just didn't look very good. Like, and I don't really want to bet on a guy who just, like, they're not going to bench him because they have no one behind him. Like, had they had Jameis Winston, maybe this is a different conversation, but I just don't really want to trust what I saw from him last time I saw him. Plus, there's always the injury concern with him and whatnot.
I just wanted to go into because obviously we're talking about Antonio Brown versus Deontay Johnson. I get the bracketing argument, and it's valid because obviously, like, I'm not going to make the argument that Deontay Johnson's on Antonio Brown's level again. Antonio Brown for this whole generation, him and Julio are, in my opinion, the two best of this generation, and particularly nobody else really kind of makes their way into that conversation from purely a dominance and a skill set aspect of it. Antonio Brown was just phenomenal. Obviously, we're not talking about his clown behavior recently, but yeah, when he was on the field. But what Deontay Johnson does is he takes that outside role, 88% of his snaps on the outside last year, only 12% of the slot. And when he was actually on the outside, he was efficient. He was efficient in beating man-to-man coverage, efficient in beating press. So while he's not Antonio Brown, he does take that role. It opens up more inside for Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to be in the slot. Also, you're adding Ebron, who's one of the best red zone weapons in the entire league. I mean, he's just going to.
I mean, he had one good season. Like, I'm not going to go as far as to say that.
He's definitely better than what Vance McDonald did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm going to move Ben up. I am too low on him, but this offense is not going to be the same as it was with Lev Bell and Antonio Brown and stuff like that.
It's just not.
It's just not. And for that reason, coupled with his age, coupled with the decline I saw from his play, coupled with the injury concern, he just has more questions to me than some of the guys I have in front of him.
That's fair.
All right.
Okay. So next up, do you want to add anything, Tyler? Sorry.
No, I mean, I just don't really believe in him, the offense at all, and I think it's shown that they just want to run the ball with Connor, and now they end Anthony McFarland. I just don't think the offense is going to be very efficient, and I think they're going to have to rely on their defense. Will he be better than Mason Rudolph? Yeah, because, like, shit, I think I could be better than Mason Rudolph, but I don't really.
I used to play quarterback.
I used to be a center.
All right. So
Uncle Rico.
Next up, we have Ryan Tannehill. He's tough to rank. So if we just kind of look at where we have him ranked, Bush has him at 15, and we all kind of have him around 20. I have him at 23. And it comes literally down to one thing, that he was 45th in total attempts last year, which obviously he didn't play the full season, 45th in attempts per game. Sorry, not just attempts, because he would have been like 60th in attempts. And he was 9th in touchdowns per game with the second highest TD rate. So the thing where it sticks with me is if he's not going to be much higher, like, okay, say he goes to 30th in attempts per game, even then the TD rate's still going to regress. It's just going to regress because just based off statistical regression of all time, every quarterback that puts above a 7 regresses at least 2%. It's just how it's going to be. And if you take a guy on a run-first offense that's going to throw 2% less touchdowns, it just kind of scares me. But that being said, if you're in a super flex league, like, he's as safe as it gets for QB2 because this offense is going to be good. Like, to me, I think this team honestly could go back to the AFC Championship because what's stopping them from doing that? Like, people will say Derrick Henry can't do it again. If you can't do it again, he wouldn't have done it 3 times in the playoffs or the last 2 years. So it's going to do it again. This offense will be good. I'm just scared about that TD regression.
Yeah, I guess I should probably speak on him considering I have him the highest. Again, I might move him down because, like you said, the TD regression is probably going to be there. I'm more so betting on the fact that not that Derrick Henry is going to not do it again, but they can't seriously win games as much as they won games where Tannehill wasn't throwing the ball at all. Like,
I don't know.
What I saw from Tannehill,
times, though.
What I saw from Tannehill, he posted some of the best quarterback ratings throwing beyond 20 plus yards in the history of the NFL last year. Like, he was incredibly efficient, and I know you don't want to bet on that. Obviously, like I said, I'm gonna move him down, but I think he genuinely just took a step forward into his career. I think he's gonna be, like you said, Superflex QB2. He's who I want all day. I think he's as safe as they come. I don't think there's a chance in hell he finishes higher than QB8, but I also don't think he's gonna finish lower than QB18. So I think his range of outcomes are pretty safe.
Safety what screams it to me. That's why I'm at 20. Very, very safe guy who may actually eclipse over 20. I think we always see guys go down. He's stayed Miami was rough, but most of the time he stayed relatively healthy outside when Steelers players were taking cheap shots at him. Lol. Oh no, that was Matt Moore. LOL. Anyways, completely derailed my argument. No, I just think he's a very safe player. That's going to get you a good baseline of points. Superflex wise, yes. Quarterback 2, absolutely support that. I just don't know if I can see him at 15.
Okay.
Boring Danny.
We'll move on. Confused. All right, next up is Gardner Minshew, and am I the highest on him? I am the highest on him. I've been sort of creeping him up. So he has one of the easiest schedules you can get in terms of yard per pass attempt, defense efficiency, just win total. The schedule is great. The thing that I think intrigues me the most is that Leonard Fournette is not going to see the same work he had last year. 1, because Chris Thompson, but 2, because Chris Thompson isn't going to stay healthy because he never has for a full season. It's just going to lead to more pass attempts. He's going to build off what he did last year, added Laviska Shenault, which I think is huge because, I hate stupid comps, but Deebo Samuel, a player like that's just a really good safety blanket. They said they're going to use him in the backfield, tight end, receiver, quarterback. He's going to be used all over. You have DJ Chark. They're just going to throw the ball because his team is going to suck. They're probably going to have the number 1 pick next year. And he has to play for his job. He has to show why he should be the quarterback, not Trevor Lawrence, et cetera, next year. I think I don't want to say he's going to ball out because he's at 18, but I think he's just going to be a good fantasy option because they're going to be losing, throwing the ball, and Leonard Fournette's going to not see the work he saw last year.
Yeah.
They're going to pick Penei Sewell next year, not Trevor Lawrence. I believe that much in Gardner Minshew as a player. Man, some of the advanced analytics and stuff and some of the other numbers, he should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year over Kyler Murray. He was legitimately better. It's just that he had a couple, he had 2 or 3 meltdown games where he got benched and he's also just not, they don't have a lot invested in him. So this isn't a dynasty show.
Awards are dumb anyways too. So
yeah, exactly. Gardner Minshew, like you said, his defense is going to be garbage again. They're going to throw the ball like crazy. I like a lot. I want a piece of this passing game. I like DJ Chark quite a bit. I don't know, probably not Laviska Shenault just because he's more of a he's a rookie. Rookie receivers, you don't know what to get from them. But yeah, Gardner Minshew, I like all these quarterbacks. It's hard to decide who to put where because I like all of them. I'd be fine with most of them on my team. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it.
Secret Garden, what a legend. Mustaches wise at 21. We'll move on.
He's a sexy human being.
All right, next up is Joe Burrow. I have him the lowest because I just don't know where to rank him because I always come back to trying to move him up and I'm sitting here I don't know because is he going to post a stat line like Ryan Tannehill, like Drew Lock, like Kirk Cousins, or is he going to be really good and post a stat line like Matt Stafford? We don't know. But I think I have him the lowest just because the Bengals still aren't good. I think Andy Dalton is efficient enough that even if he was playing, he would have been somewhat fantasy relevant. I get Joe Burrow's good. You could say he's better than Andy Dalton, but Andy Dalton was a pretty good game manager, and he would have been able to do it with the same offense. So we'll see. Closer to the season, I'll probably have him moved up, or it could bite me back if I have him this low. But I just think as of now, one offensive lineman in Jonah Williams that's never played a snap in the NFL is not making this offensive line better. the defense got better, like really a lot better. They have all 3 new corners. They got DJ Reader from the Texans, like a top 5 D tackle last year, so they're going to be on offense less. And I think that if they pay Joe Mixon, they're going to feed him on the ground. So there's just kind of a lot of things going against him, but also going for him. So I'm kind of split on him.
Yeah, I have him the highest right now. I'm at 17. Again, to me, I just believe. I know this is probably a coin phrase for me by now.
Nobody's denying the talent.
I was about to say, I just believe in the talent. I mean, he's the number 1 pick. We saw exactly. Obviously, he's not going to have the rushing floor of a guy like Kyler Murray, but we saw last year that when you're just a talented quarterback, some of these guys, some of these special talents, like I believe Joe Burrow is, can step into those sort of situations and still produce. Now, I still think there is risk, which is why I have him at 17. But I think ultimately here, I mean, you're getting weapons back. As much as we want to hate on AJ Green because he can't stay healthy, whenever the games he is on the field, he's going to be a good weapon for Burrow. He's still got Tyler Boyd in the system. He's still got T. Higgins. Like, this is ultimately, in my opinion, going to be a good supporting cast for Burrow in that sense. Again, the offensive line is a major fucking question mark at this point, which is ultimately keeping him out of the top 15. But from a complete ceiling standpoint, I do believe that he wants a 17th spot for me.
He can scoot, in my opinion. I think he can run pretty well. I think he's going to rely on his legs because he's going to be running for his life a lot of the time.
Baker running in college. Seriously.
No. Joe Burrow is a better athlete.
Joe Burrow's a clean
had very
athlete.
efficient rushing stats in college.
I think, honestly, Joe Burrow's like the level of Daniel Jones athlete to me. So I think he's going to be able to pick up some scramble yards because he's, like I said, he's going to be running for his life back there. Like Danny said, I'm more so he's more so just a dart throw like quarterback too in a single quarterback league. He's the type of quarterback I would pair with someone like Jared Goff, where I just want an upside quarterback.
I just don't know if I'm buying into it. I just this year, because I really don't think the situation changed outside of them basically saying, it's okay, AJ Green, we don't need you to come back because we got T. Higgins. Now, you want to come back and play with us? Sure, why not? But I mean,
a franchise tag AJ Green.
Yeah, but having 5 different receivers doesn't help. Having
it helps the quarterback. It doesn't help the receivers.
But I'm saying having 5 receivers is the same as having 3 receivers because the 5 aren't all on the field at the same time. Like John Ross won't be on the field every single.
Well, yeah, John Ross can go back to his what his role should be at this point, which is just stretching the field because he can't really do anything else.
The thing I think is going to suck is his ADP is not going to be this low by any means.
No, I don't think so either.
So you're not going to be able to. I mean, you can get him at your QB2,
especially if we get preseason games and people see him play because the kid's fucking good as hell.
Yeah, so. Just like Baker last year, he tore up the 7th strings and he was super high on the ADP for sure. Alrighty, we'll move on. We have 3 or 4? I don't even know. Kirk Cousins is next.
22 right now.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is next. I mean, he's here because he's going to finish here. The upside is clearly not there. I will say one thing: adding Gary Kubiak could maybe unlock a little more passing volume, but losing Stephon Diggs and replacing him with a rookie is not going to help that. So I think it just kind of balances itself out. I think that, I mean, this isn't applying to redraft, but personally, Dalvin Cook, they're not going to sign him back. I don't think they're not in the cap space to do it, and he's just an injury-prone running back as it is. I'm not saying they're going to give him less work.
But I'm saying Dalvin Cook, man. You rip on him a lot.
He's going to go to the Jets.
Great. Oh. But I think Kirk Cousins, like I said, the whole Baker Mayfield, the run pass ratio, if it stays the same, you're banking on a high TD rate. Because when he was a top 10 quarterback 3 or 4 years, or at least 2 years in the Vikings, it was because of high TD rate, not because they threw the ball a lot or he was super efficient, but he was a really good passing quarterback. So you're just banking on a 6 to 7% TD rate. But in that being said, in Superflex as a QB2, kind of like Tannehill, Minshew, you can't go wrong with it at all.
Yeah,
I don't hate him. I think the defense got markedly worse.
Oh, it's
so there is a chance that he does not throw 480 passes this year like he did last year. So I mean, I don't hate him. I think he's a solid quarterback too, like you mentioned. I just can't rank him ahead of the other guys because the volume is not going to be there most likely.
I just wanted to mention quickly. I get that they had again the 3rd heaviest run the pass offense last year, but it's not like we're replacing him with getting back a Pat Shurmur for that team. We're replacing him with Gary Kubiak, who's been one of the highest run-to-pass splits in the entire league once he's been the play caller. So it's not like we're going to naturally project a big increase in volume. Although there is going to be some, it just simply he's a safe QB2. There's not really much else to him, in my opinion. He's not going to finish in the top 12, but he's going to finish anywhere in that 13 to 24 range where, pick and choose. because everybody, like all those guys kind of have the same baseline, in my opinion.
Since becoming a starter, he's yet to finish under quarterback 15. And that was last year with an offense that I think was a little bit more run heavy than what they're going to be dealing with this year. And I don't see, again, like Corey made the point, the defense is worse. They lost a lot of pieces. There's going to be more passing. Will the efficiency be great? No, but I still think he could finish 17. That's why I'm ranked the highest ranked out of everyone here. I'm the only one with him in the teens, and I'm good with him being there. I just genuinely believe he just naturally has always finished in that top above top 15. We talked about it with Rodgers. We talked about it with Goff. Why aren't we talking about it with Cousins? He's a guy who's consistently done it throughout his career.
I think I'm just a little low because I'm scared of Thielen's injury and the lack of other weapons. Like Justin Jefferson, like I love Justin Jefferson, but he's not a alpha. Like
he's not
what if he struggles his rookie year? Then it's just Thielen.
I think that's where like we see a little bit of a downgrade. I get exactly what you're saying. That's why it's tough to rank him here because he is a good quarterback. He does finish that high.
Well, it's not like the Redskins had a shit ton of receiving targets. Like they had.
It's honestly just tough to rank all these quarterbacks, to be honest, because they're all like you can all like make an argument for them to either be safe and finish as a top 15 quarterback or to have a lot of upside and be a top 10 quarterback.
For sure.
Now, decline, but yeah.
Next guy on the list, I actually have one spot ahead of Cousins. We have Jimmy Garoppolo, who we have ranked Lucas at 24, Corey at 24, Lucas at 19, Tyler at 23, and myself at 22 again. Similar to Cousins, I just feel like it's not really going to be a high volume in terms of passing offense. I just believe like the real difference between those two guys, in my opinion, is I believe Jimmy Garoppolo has a little bit of better weapons to work with. So ultimately, again, pick and choose between those guys. We're ultimately going to have an ADP battle video on those two guys, so stay tuned. But yeah, there's similar quarterbacks to me. It's just ultimately the weapons, in my opinion, ultimately say that a lot, puts Garoppolo one spot higher.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, it's the exact same. He's going to finish as a probably QB 14, 15, but you just have to have him ranked here because it's hard to put him over the guys ahead of him. I don't think Brandon Ayuk necessarily helps him that much because we already have Deebo Samuel, so it's not like it is huge where if they would have went and got, I don't know, Higgins or someone, I think that would have helped more because he would have had that true possession guy, but still, he'll still be fine. And last off, to end off the list, if you want to get the rest, down below the link to see the rest of our rankings as well as the top, if you don't want to watch the rest of Wednesday's video, is Derek Carr. He's also tough because we can make all the same arguments that he has similar weapons to Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, et cetera, but to me, like I don't even have him the lowest. Bush has him the lowest. To me, I don't think this offense is going to work with all they're going to try to do too much the first couple of weeks, and they're going to realize that it's way too much they can actually do and have to adjust it from there. And losing 4 weeks of what I think Derek Carr can do obviously is going to set you back in rankings. I just think they're going to – I don't know. Like they just have too many gadget players. Like they have Ruggs as their one, but they're probably going to try and use Edwards as their one. They'll probably try and use Tyrell Williams. Darren Waller's still there. Jason Witten's there, so he's going to get that gross. He's better than Blake Bowen, though. I'm just kidding. But I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of forced touches, which doesn't really help in terms of like points per game based on like a forced touch. It doesn't help the fantasy value of the quarterback because if you're giving Bowden a 2-yard pass, you could be throwing the ball 20 yards downfield. So in the long run, it's just I don't think the upside's really there.
He could easily like like you said, I have him at 25. He could easily like prove me wrong on this, but I'm just like not willing to bet on Derek Carr like at all. Like I love Henry Ruggs more than anyone, but like he can't carry a fantasy quarterback, and like all his other like receiving options are like close to the line of scrimmage, like guys that like I don't know. There's just not. I just don't see a lot of upside for Derek Carr. I wouldn't be shocked if he was quarterback 17 on the year because like. People are bound to get injured and be inconsistent and stuff. So there's a chance he just is solid. And quarterback 2, if you wait on quarterback, maybe you like Derek Carr, you can pair him up with another safe quarterback and you just fade the position completely. So I don't hate Derek Carr. I'm just like, I can't rank him above the other guys because I don't see the upside.
I'm high on him. I'm very much sold into Derek Carr this year. They added offensive weapons for him. It's a clear top 10 line. I would argue top 5 offensive line in the NFL. And they added John Simpson to replace Incognito. So dynasty-wise, I'm very much behind Derek Carr. added to the point that he had his highest passing yards and attempts season last year. With Gruden's clear into let's pass the ball. Yes, they're also running the ball with Josh Jacobs. I think that's an actual benefit for him. I think him running the ball efficiently is taken away for Carr passing the ball. I think he at 19 is very much possible. I think the weapons built around him, they're built for his success. And yes, shit. Again, we've talked about it so many times. There's definitely a chance that some of these guys, maybe it's just hard to kind of tier them, but I'm just a little higher on Carr than I am with other players on this list.
And he's why I'm willing to take risks on Mayfield and guys like that might not work out, is because I can always go back to I don't play in any super flex redraft leagues. Only in Dynasty do I play in those. So I'm more willing to just take risks on risky quarterbacks. And I always have Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo to fall back on in the waiver wire if I'm screwed and I have no quarterback that I drafted.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, pretty much the same points. I have him at 25, so just outside the top 24. Again, with a guy like that, same thing with Cousins, same thing with Jimmy G. He's probably going to be safe. He's probably going to be in that high QB3, low QB2 type range, in my opinion. But ultimately here, I just prefer the other guys a little bit more than him. So nothing against Derek Carr. I think he's a fine quarterback. But again, in terms of the volume, in terms of the overall weapons around him, I ultimately have him below those guys.
Yeah. Well, guys, we did it. That's our top 24 quarterbacks. If you didn't check out part 1, you might as well do that. We'll put that somewhere on the screen. If you guys like the content, you got this far for a reason, like, sub, hit the bell, maybe make a comment, anything you want. We'll answer it. If it's not a question, we'll respect your statement, but do so. We appreciate it. Guys, anything final takes at all?
Nope.
Oh, good.
Big Ben's a bust for the NFL. See you guys.